We see the southern border. We talk about it on this show all the time, but I've been noticing a lot in the local news headlines that we're seeing a lot of boats washing up on the shores of South Florida. In fact, yesterday there was a group of about 88 Cuban migrants who were on the Marquesas Islands off the Florida Keys. Is this part of the Biden administration's open borders, that everyone, even folks in the Caribbean islands, see this as an opportunity to come to this country?
This is 100% of President Biden's and Secretary Mayorkas' open border policy. This is a daily occurrence in the Florida Keys. You go down there along any stretch of the Florida Keys, and you'll see those boats washed ashore, where maybe they abandoned the vessels, tried to make a swim and a run for it, a host of different scenarios that go on. But this really is the widely known secret that Biden and Mayorkas, they don't want to tell people. There's not really a better way, in many cases, to smuggle the most hardened criminals, totally violent individuals, set on terrorism, bring in fentanyl into our country, other places, than smuggling them in with what the administration wants you to think is just children and families that are trying to escape something and seek asylum. Of course, they mix them in with one another. This is the business, and a multi-billion-dollar business, of those cartels who are happy to conduct violence for no other reason other than just personal pleasure for them, but certainly to disrupt the United States of America and further their business interests.
And it's also very dangerous, too. And when you talk about the incentive that the Biden administration is providing for illegal immigrants, you also have to talk about the moral hazard and the numerous deaths that have occurred because these people feel like now is the time to come. Different topic. I wanted to talk to you about Florida Governor Ron DeSantis vowing that no COVID vaccine mandate for kids will be in effect in the state of Florida after the CDC advisory panel recommended these shots for children. Here is the governor.
As long as I'm around and as long as I'm kicking and screaming, there will be no COVID shot mandates for your kids. That is your decision.
I actually talked to a doctor today, Congressman, who moved down to Florida from New York, and he said this is one of the reasons why he feels like he can practice the version of medicine that he needs to practice here on kids because of decisions like this one.
Yeah, we need an informal poll for those that have recently moved into Florida, saying how many of you moved down because you love the freedom that Governor DeSantis is providing. And it would be an overwhelming poll on that front. But I think there's room here to say we really need an investigation into logic. What to this administration and their agencies is logical about taking the group of people that was least affected by COVID-19 at all and saying that there's going to be a mandate to get them vaccinated for school or for summer camp or for something else? Is this something that went to some kind of lobbying effort by Big Pharma to keep the cash cow going for them? It's worthy of investigation because there's no logic to it whatsoever.
Yeah, and you know, we have to wonder, is the CDC going to be held accountable, or is Rochelle Walensky going to be held accountable if Republicans take back control of Congress based on what we know about the learning loss and the mental issues and all the other health issues that have come from closing down schools? The CDC loves to say that they don't implement state policies, but we see these states, Tennessee, we talked about Ohio yesterday, and others that just do what the CDC says. That is their recommendation. Are there any plans to investigate Rochelle Walensky or try to hold her accountable?
CDC, Fauci, Biden, the list goes on and on. What they knew, when they knew it, why they didn't disclose that, why they continued on with the policies, even to this very moment that we're talking about, vaccines for kids in order to go out there and receive an education. This all needs to be looked into. I believe we will be looking into that. I think these are the direct kind of things that Jim Jordan wants to go out there and investigate right to the very ends and lengths that it leads him to. And you look at the situation, and again, to bring it back to Florida and Governor DeSantis, this is something that Governor DeSantis is saying. Parents need to play that number one role, that key role in raising their children, deciding what's best for their children's health, what's best for their children's education, not allowing Washington, D.C. to try and create some kind of loophole for liberal states to go out there and say, well, we have to wash our hands of this because the federal government said this, so we're going to make that a mandate. It's just what the federal government says, because that's the way that they will operate that for, let's say, governors like Governor Whitmer in Michigan and others.